Alright, got it all welded up, ground down. One thing you'll notice is when I fit this, I put the weld on a little bit of a low spot. So this panel kind of curves this way, and then this one's kind of curving in, which makes like a little V, just a small V, so that I can add a strip of filler right here, and that way it keeps the majority of my filler right here. Because if any of it's high, then your choices are either A, grind it down if you have material to grind, B, knock it in, which isn't really always a good way to do it, or B, feather it out. So I like to put just a small V if you can, just very light in here, so that the filler stays right here and you don't have to strip it all down. I mean, this scenario, I'm kind of screwed anyway, because it's here, along here, along here, it's gonna be along here. So no matter what, this is gonna have filler all over it. But if you can keep it in a nice little condensed area, it's always better. But one thing you'll notice, you can kind of see what I'm talking about right here. You see the gap? Well, sometimes when you weld it, typically what happens is that the metal either bend this way down in a V, or it'll bend up. It'll kind of bend to do like a peak or a mountain like this. So it's either like this, or it'll be backbowed like this, or I mean, it can even be like all kinds of crazy. But usually when you do a weld like that, but since I already had the little V in there, what happened when I welded it, that's about the V that I put in it. And then as you notice, the farther back you go, see how the gap gets bigger and bigger? So we got a big old gap right there. So what I do is I put my dolly on this side of the panel, and then I hammer from the back side, and then that's how I'm pushing all this metal back up to where I had it. But it's always better to be low than high, so that's why I leave a little bit of a little trough, if you will, little V. That's all the tips I got for today. One other way to get rid of a high spot, if you have to, it really doesn't work on a weld seam, but if you just had a little area that was high, one thing you can do is you heat it up red hot, you hammer and dolly it, hit one side with your hammer while you got the dolly, like hammer on dolly, and then quench it with water. When you quench it, when you hammer on dolly, it stretches the metal, flattens it out, but it'll oil can. So then you quench it with water real quick, and what that does is where you just stretch the metal, it shrinks it back, and that'll get rid of a high spot. But you can't, it doesn't really work for a weld, and it doesn't really work because this panel is flanged, so you got a flange and a weld on top of it, so it's not going to work for that. But that's another way you can get rid of a high spot that I just thought about. Alright, here it is. I got one side all the way done. Well, I got to weld it on and ground down. I wouldn't say all the way done, because I still got to weld all this on, adjust that, weld all this on, piece of round bar. But the quarters are back on. Pretty much car game. So Only got one side ground down. I got the other side welded up. But wasn't enough, I would say there wasn't enough time in the day, but really there wasn't enough motivation in the tank. Between this and everything else I had to do, this really wasn't priority, so I couldn't I couldn't get it all done this weekend. So hopefully by next weekend this will be done. See if I can't knock this out with an hour or two a day after work. See what happens. See what happens next week. Later on, guys.